So welcome to my talk, Act Now, where I'll be walking you through my experience of taking risks to grow my career and what it's been like to work in tech without any, say, formal training. Before I begin, I would like to ask if any more of you would be comfortable putting on your cameras. Being able to see and picture people in pajamas is good for the nerves, and I am a little bit nervous, so I would love to be able to see you, and bonus points for anybody who's actually already in pajamas. So thank you all very much for being here today. My name is Kirsten Sherwin, and I've been working in tech for the past 4 years, and I absolutely love it. I'm currently working as a product owner at a software agency in Montreal called Third Bridge, and I come from a more artistic and creative background, having studied in general arts in Cégep, which allowed me to explore things like drawing, painting, sculpture, photography, and film. And I ended up majoring in theater at Concordia University with an emphasis on acting, directing, and designing. In 2018, I took a leap of faith and left a very stable job as a call center manager in a rapidly expanding company in order to work an entry-level position of a call service agent at a very new startup. It wasn't even a year old yet, so it was very young and very new. And it was a huge risk for me at that time in my career, but I was very attracted to the company's mission and the pet-friendly office that was advertised in the job posting. And doing that change, making that change and making that jump was really the first big leap that took me to where I am now. So the startup was called Milo. It's now called Mocha. It's a fintech app that helps users to save money and invest. Working at Mocha, I felt like for the first time in my career that the shoe fit. I was Cinderella and I was thrilled about it. As any of you that have worked in a startup know, you get to wear a lot of hats and do a lot of different things. So a lot like the exploration I did in the arts, I got to explore a lot of different things that you do in tech, like copywriting. I did some marketing. I was able to work on UX UI and collaborate with product owners, product managers, and designers. And through my first years, I had a really hard time picking in which direction I wanted to grow my own career because there was just so much to offer and so many different things available. And I wasn't sure where my skill sets would also best be leveraged. But enter the year 2020, the start of the pandemic, and the company did a full rebranding and changed a lot of their services, and we were working on building a premium service bundle for our users. And I was invited to lead an initiative for a feature called Bill Negotiation, where we would help our users reduce the cost of their service bills, like wireless plans, internet and cable bills. And so I was asked if I would like to pilot this project and bring it to market. And it seemed like a really big and scary thing. But luckily, I've always been really inspired by the Jim Carrey movie Yes Man. And saying yes to scary new opportunities is kind of a trend. And so I took the opportunity, and it turned out to be a wildly successful first year with that product and an absolutely amazing stepping stone in my career trajectory. However, had I been told how successful it would be when it was first brought to me, I don't think I would have believed it. Negotiating was not a skill I believed I had. It was something I always passed off onto other people to negotiate prices of different things. And so I didn't think I could do it, let alone teach other people how to do it successfully and actually have this service out on the market. I don't think I've ever negotiated anything in my life except for maybe my curfew as a teenager, and I was a second child, so that really wasn't that hard anyway. But in order to make this change and feel comfortable doing it, these were some of the things that I decided to do to make that decision. So I talked to somebody that I knew with experience, which was my dad. I have this really crystal clear memory of us being in Cuba when I was 6 years old and him bartering with the vendors in order to get me a really good deal on like seashell and beaded jewelry. And he's somebody that enjoys negotiating. So I went to him initially on advice on how to do it. And then with that base that I got from him, I started researching and watching YouTube videos, reading anything I could on the matter, blog posts, Reddit, whatever there was available, I was reading it. And I started to get more and more comfortable with the material and at least started believing that I could act in a role of a confident negotiator. And so I decided to give it a try. But next, having a plan B, I went to the higher ups at Mocha, my manager, and I asked if, just in case I fell flat on my face and it wasn't working out and I was no good at it, I would be able to return back to my role as a customer service agent. And they agreed, so I decided to try it. And the feature absolutely took off, as you saw. In the first year, we saved our users over $1 million, and that was only with a really small portion of our users. I think it was about 6,000 users that we were able to save over $1 million for on their bills. And the team grew really quickly from just me to a team of 12 in less than 6 months. And I learned a lot really quickly. It was a really amazing experience. However, like most companies did during the pandemic, Mocha went through a lot of changes, and despite our success, we were bought out by another company named Mogo. And the growth that I was experiencing and continuing to look for wasn't as boundless as it had once seemed. But luckily, at the time that this was happening, my sister-in-law put me onto an opportunity at a company her friend worked at, which was the product owner role at ThirdBridge. And here again, just like in bill negotiation, I was at a crossroads in my career and had to make a decision, and it was a really hard one. So once again, before uprooting everything that I had known and worked towards for the past 4 years, I had to weigh the risk. So first, I talked to people with experience that I was connected to through my network or through my mentor, and talked to them about what that experience of working in product like was in their company. I did research on the role and compared it to what I was already doing, and finding whatever skills I might be missing and reading up on that as well. In this case, there was no option of having a plan B. I only had 2 options: either I stay or I go. And let me tell you, I was really torn up about it for days trying to figure out what was the right decision. So I also made a pro and con list, and what I did was I gave each item on this list a sort of mathematical equation of +3 if it was a really good pro to -3 if it was a really bad con. And I created this sort of mathematical equation that I thought would perhaps magically reduce my angst around the decision and give me the answer that I needed in order to make this choice. But at the end of the list, I think it only really came out to a variant of like 1 point in between the 2 companies. So they were pretty equal opportunities. And what I decided to do was flip a coin. Not because I wanted the coin to make the decision for me, but because I had heard that when you flip a coin and it lands on whatever side it lands on and you feel disappointed, you'll then know in your heart exactly which one's the right choice for you. So that's what I did, and I decided to go and become a product owner at ThirdBridge. And this is exactly how I felt for those first few months. I was so far out of my comfort zone, but it did end up getting better. And I'll let you know what I did and what I looked to do in order to make it better. But first, I really have to say that I'm super lucky to work for a company that decided to take a chance on me. They have been really supported in helping me learn and grow into the role. They've had a lot of patience with me, and they've challenged me a lot, which has been great. And they've even funded some continued education for me that I've been able to do while on the job and not have it be a prerequisite to take before starting the job. So that's been really wonderful. And so despite initially feeling so far out of my comfort zone, I knew that I had experience at Mocha, and I did a lot of the things that I was going to do in this job, but also maybe surprisingly, my formal education in theater actually has a significant amount of transferable skills that really benefit me in a role like this. My approach to product and user experience is highly based on, in fact, that creating an experience, like a digital stage, if you will, where you want to tell a story. Whereas theater or a play is all about what you want to say and how you want to say it. Creating an app is all about what you want to do and how you want to do it, with both philosophies lining up in how you want your users or your audience to feel and experience what it is that you're creating. Additionally, a theater ensemble works a lot like an agile scrum team. So while I had not been part of a scrum team before, the theory of it was really easy to catch on to. Each member of a theater ensemble has their role either as an actor, a director, a stage manager, a set and lighting or costume designer, which parallels a scrum team made up of developers, scrum masters, product owners, and designers all collaborating together to produce something. And putting together a play is also iterative, just like building an app. You don't have to have a play and take a script and make it from start to finish. You have scenes and you block these scenes and each one builds onto the other. And my favorite part in both cases is it's a team effort. Each member has their clearly defined roles, but everybody also has their input in working towards this final product that you want to create. And so a lot about what I love about theater, I find in tech, and that is extremely thrilling and fulfilling. And my parents are also very happy that my education didn't go to waste. So, however, despite all of these transferable skills and anything I've accomplished, I felt and still feel sometimes like a fraud. Like at any moment, the mystery machine is going to pull up and Shaggy or Scooby-Doo are going to run out and pull this product owner mask off of my face and go like, aha, the jig is up, we found you out. But I often feel like I'm acting the part. But it seems like a lot of people do as well, the more I look into imposter syndrome. And so there's a little bit of solace in knowing that I'm not alone. Studies show that up to 82% of people experience these sort of feelings, which is massive, but in a way it also helps remind me and reinforce that I'm doing okay. I'm not perfect, I'm not an expert, but I'm still learning, and that's totally fine. It's important to note that imposter syndrome, or imposter phenomenon as it was coined in the 1970s, affects women more than it affects men. In fact, the first ever study done on it was exclusive to female subjects. And while it's not recognized as an official psychological disorder, it can exacerbate other conditions and feelings of anxiety and depression, increase the risk of burnout, as well as stop women from progressing further in their careers. So it is a thing to take seriously. Before I proceed, just a quick caveat that I'm not a medical professional and this is not medical advice. These are simply tips and tricks that I have learned help me in dealing with my own feelings around imposter syndrome and work-related anxiety. And if you feel any amount of anxiety, depression, or psychological troubles, I emphatically encourage you to seek out help, and there is no shame in it. Let's destigmatize taking care of your mental health. But if you're feeling any of the same things that I'm felt, here are some of the things that have helped me and continue to help me. So I have, what I call the done-did list. And the done-did list is the opposite of a to-do list. And it should be done on a totally separate document. And what it is at the end of your day, you take your last 10, 15 minutes of your shift to just sit down and write a list of what it was that you did get done throughout the day. A lot of the times you can start your day with a to-do list and maybe you get 3/4 of the way through by the end of your day and you can feel like, oh, I didn't get everything done that I needed to get done. And you can get really into a negative space thinking that you're not achieving what you wanted to achieve and do what you needed to do. But if you do the opposite and you sit down and you just write everything that you did get done, and it might be things that weren't necessarily on your to-do list to begin with, this feels like a really good way to end your day. And you can kind of close down your computer and leave and go and spend your evening feeling good and like you accomplished a lot. The other thing that I recommend is to Google everything. Google is your best friend. There's so much information out there. And you know, anytime I've been asked to do something, I accept what I'm being asked to do. I say, I've never done it before, but let me figure it out. I might reach out to you and get some feedback while I'm working on it. But then if I haven't done it before, I go and I Google it and I look for everything I can find. So remember that Google is your best friend. And then, like I mentioned in that point, I try to get as much feedback as I can, either by asking peers or asking my manager or asking people that I've networked with and work in product. I go and I get information from them on what I'm doing, what I'm working on, and you know, getting suggestions from them on what they might do in similar circumstances. Another thing that I've started doing, and I've actually been doing this for years in a lot of other roles, is what I call kudos record. And this is a document where I take screenshots and write down anything that somebody has said to me verbally that tells me that I'm doing a good job, or anything that makes me feel good. So I just keep this running list of times people have told me that I've done well. And anytime that I start feeling uncertain or sad or frustrated or worried that I'm going to get fired tomorrow, I just go to this list and I remind myself and I remember what it is that I have done and what I've been contributing to my company and my team. And little side note, this is a great thing to have right before you do your annual reviews, to go and look at, to remind yourself all the different ways that you've brought value to your team. And then my last point is to talk about it. And this one's an important one. Anytime that I've talked to my peers and my coworkers about feeling a sort of imposter syndrome, they've told me that they felt the same thing. And one thing that I noticed when I was doing a lot of research on it was that the internet tells you to not talk to your manager about it. But I actually recommend doing the total opposite, because doing that is kind of one of the points that was really pivotal for me to stop having such an intense amount of imposter syndrome. I was having my beginning of the year meeting with my manager, where we were setting goals for the year and talking about what kind of things that we wanted to accomplish and I wanted to accomplish. And I had mentioned to him that I was feeling imposter syndrome, and he stopped me and he told me, okay, so you're doing all of this and you've done all of that and you're setting all of these goals and you feel like you have imposter syndrome. That's amazing. And that was a really awakening moment for me, where I was like, oh gosh, wow, I'm really not doing as bad as I'm thinking. Like, he's right. I've done a lot of these things and other people are recognizing it. And so talking to people and not just getting their, you know, the feel good of them telling you that you're doing a good job, but also just kind of recognizing that you're not feeling this alone. A couple other things that I have in this separate box are things that other people recommend doing. I have them in a separate box because they don't personally work for me, so I can't recommend them, but I figure they're at least mentionable, so other people might be able to get good things from this. So the first one is mirror mantras, where you stand in front of a mirror and you give yourself a little pep talk and you tell yourself how great you are. Is a tool that a lot of people use. And then goal setting is another tool. The reason why I don't recommend a lot of goal setting is because that can still put a lot of pressure on yourself. I feel that when I've set too many goals and I'm not reaching them or not reaching them fast enough, they take so much of my mental space off during work and outside of work. So I really reduce the amount of goals that I set for myself. So those are my tips and my tricks for that. But some of the things that I've been mulling over while preparing this presentation, and I think is important to mention, is that in most cases, and even in my talk today, the exploration of imposter syndrome emphasizes what people can do to overcome it without really addressing some of the environmental factors or societal factors of why we're even experiencing it, and why women experience it at a higher rate as well. So personally, I don't have an answer to this. I'm just throwing the question out there to get other people thinking about it, to get myself to continue to think about it. And I think somewhere in that conversation that I had with my manager is where I might find a nugget that continues this conversation and this idea of you know, changing those environmental factors that help people or either stop having imposter syndrome or stop them from even getting that feeling to begin with. So finally, just as a closing recap to tie it all with a nice bow, my recommendations are to be a yes person, to believe in yourself, and to take those chances on different opportunities that come your way, even if you don't think that you can do it. I think you can. So be open to those doors and walk through them when they present themselves. There's a great quote from Wayne Gretzky that says, you miss every shot you don't take, right? So I do recommend going for those opportunities. And then if you happen to manage a team or work for HR, I hope I've inspired you to keep in mind that transferable skills have immense value and great potential in a motivated individual. Someone could be a good fit for a role despite lacking official experience or education in it. So just take a chance on people, and most importantly, invest in people in your company. And next, no matter who you are or what role you have at a company, give your colleagues, peers, even your managers, your subordinates, give everybody as much kudos as you can. Even if you think that they know that they're doing a good job, continue to let them know, because it makes all the difference. And I hope that after this, people start that kudos record and end up with a giant, massive list of feel-good moments, because people are giving that feedback to people. And of course, in line with the theme of this year's Tech Makers program, aim for progress and not perfection, because progress is great. And so that's pretty much it for me. Thank you so much for your time. I hope you've enjoyed this talk and are going to walk away with a couple of golden nuggets that you'll be able to keep with you. And I'm open to any final questions if there's still time.
Congratulations, Kirsten. Thank you so much for the great talk. I think everyone here was really engaged, and most of the things that you said, really resonated with everyone. We do have a couple of questions. So if anyone want to ask the questions directly, want to go off mute and ask, you can do so. Otherwise, we have one question from Sherry in the Q&A, asking if you could share something from your mentor or mentors that gave you more motivation to make the move to become a product owner.
Yeah, absolutely. I kind of mentioned in my last point of when those doors open, walk through them. Because with my mentor was my manager at Mocha. She's an amazing woman, super intelligent, and I really valued her opinion. But I kind of put her in a really awkward position when I was considering the new opportunity, because I went to her as my mentor instead of my manager. And I asked her, if you were presented with this opportunity, what would you do? Or if you have you ever experienced anything like this in your own career? And that's when she said to me those words, when a door opens, you walk through them. So even though she was my manager, she kind of encouraged me to take the opportunity. And so that was my experience with my mentor at that point in switching to product owner.
That's great. That's a great manager. Yeah, agreed. We also, I think we have other questions in the chat. Yeah, so this question is from Nadia, and I think other people are interested as well. Nadia says that sometimes we're afraid to ask questions of our superiors, probably because of imposter syndrome or other reasons. So can you give us more advice on how to deal with this problem, especially for people at the beginning of their career?
Mm-hmm. So I guess it always depends on what kind of question you want to ask them. Obviously, when I went to my manager, my statement to him was not, you made a mistake hiring me. I'm an imposter. I have no idea what I'm doing. You should get rid of me. Right? It was more of just like talking about my goals and my initiatives. And one of my goals for this year was saying that I wanted to increase my confidence in what I was doing. And that's when I mentioned that I had imposter syndrome. So I think when you're starting in a new role and you're not sure on how to do things, it's not so much about asking your manager, I don't know how to do this, tell me how I need to do it, because then whoever's doing in that role of your manager is having to do the work in double by having to first teach you how to do it and then you do it yourself, whereas they could have saved time doing it themselves. But you're there in that role to be able to do this. So you can always ask if you're assigned something or given something, just ask the questions, you know, where can I find information on this, or where can I do that? And then at the end of the day, I always recommend Googling something. So before I ask questions, I try to find something out myself as much as possible. It doesn't mean don't go to your manager when you don't have questions. It's more, say, I haven't done this before, let me see what I figure out, and I'll come back to you for feedback, and take that first step of trying to figuring it out first. And if you don't find answers anywhere else, then go to your manager to be like, I'm totally lost. I need your help and support. And hopefully you work for a company that is willing and able to provide that support that you need.